Hey guys, being a programmer or a web developer or any job at all where you sit all day can do horrible things to your back and your health in general over time. So I would definitely suggest looking into a stand-sit desk. And Anthrodesk has affordable and quality solutions for maximum health and productivity. You can choose from different frame widths depending on your needs. I actually just got one myself and I love it. They also offer accessories like standing converters and floor mats. So check out anthrodesk.com or click the link in the description below. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to my Gatsby JS crash course. If you do not know what Gatsby is, it's a static site generator that uses React, and it also has a rich data plugin ecosystem to work with things like headless content management systems, APIs, databases, your own file system, and much more. Okay, so it has a slew of plugins that can really extend the functionality of this beyond just a regular static site generator. All right, it also uses GraphQL to query things like files from your file system. For instance, we're going to be using Markdown to create a blog on our static site, and we will be using GraphQL to basically query the file nodes and bring those into our site. All right, now in web development, you have many different tools, whether it's a framework, a library, a CMS, whatever it may be, and some are practical and some are not. Okay, some are really awesome technologies, but they're not very practical when it comes to, you know, a one-man show, a freelancer that wants to create something of substance for a client. And this is something that's very practical for freelancers. Okay, if you want to build like brochure type websites and you don't want to do the old, you know, HTML files where you're constantly repeating yourself, you have the same nav bar on every single page. This is awesome because you can just create a simple React component, a simple nav bar or whatever it may be, sidebar menu, something like that, footer, and just include it in your layout, and then you no longer have to worry about that. You can just simply create new pages and that will automatically show up. So it's very, very practical in that sense. And it can be very easy if you're making just a brochure website. If you're adding a blog or you're adding you know, if you're dealing with APIs and stuff like that, it can get a little more complicated. You'll see when we create our Markdown blog, there's quite a bit of configuration. It can be a little overwhelming, but once you get past that and you already have those files created, it's simple. You just create your folder with your blog post and it will automatically show up in the list, and you can click on it and people can read your blog post. All right, so we're just going to jump in and get started. It has its own CLI that will generate a site for us with some boilerplate. We'll take a look at that. We'll create a menu component and we'll work on the blog. So we'll do as much as we can within an hour or so. I like to keep my crash courses around an hour. So let's jump in and get started. All right, guys, so we're going to jump in and get started here. Now, first thing you're going to want to do is install the Gatsby CLI, and you want to install it globally. So we're going to go ahead and do npm install, or npm I -g for global, and then Gatsby -CLI. Okay, and obviously you need to have Node.js installed so you have access to npm. All right, so mine went really quick because I actually already have it installed. Once you do that, we'll be able to generate a new application with Gatsby new and then the name of the app. So I'm going to call this Gatsby underscore, let's do underscore crash underscore course. That's fine. All right, and I'll have all the code for this in the description as well. And like I said, we're gonna give it a shot deploying it to Netlify. I haven't actually done it yet, but we'll try it together. So what's happening now is it's just generating all the files for us. So now we should be able to cd into Gatsby underscore crash underscore course, and from here I'm just going to open up Visual Studio Code or whatever, you know, whatever text editor you want. It doesn't have to be VS Code. I'll upgrade later. And now I'm going to use the internal or the integrated terminal from now on. All right, so let's take a look at some files here. If we look at our package.json, we have some dependencies, of course, Gatsby. Gatsby link is so that we can use the link tag like you would do in regular React. And then Gatsby plugin React Helmet, and React Helmet is used to basically generate head information for your pages. Down here we have some scripts. Gatsby develop is what we'll do to run our server. Gatsby build will build it out. We can also do testing and so on. And then it looks like it also includes Prettier as a dev dependency. Okay, I'm also using the Prettier extension for VS Code. So that's the package.json file. We have some config files here. I'm not really going to go over these just yet. We will be working in these later when we start to implement our blog with Markdown. But the main stuff is in this source folder. Okay, just like with any React application, we have a components folder. You'll see we have a header.js file. We have pages, which includes an index.js, a 404 page, and a page 2. And then we have a layouts folder, which has an index.js and an index.css. All right, so if we were to look at a page, let's look at the index page. It's basically a functional React component. We have an arrow function here called and it's called index page. We just have a div, so basically this is the render, and we're linking to page 2 here using link, which comes in from Gatsby link, and then we're just exporting the page. All right, so when you want to create a page, this is all you have to do. This is the second page, and this is the 404 page. All right, now if we look at layouts, if we look at index.js, we're bringing in helmet. So helmet has to do with the head. So you can see we can have a title, which we can get from data.site metadata.title. We can include our own description and keywords and stuff. And then we have our header. Okay, so our header component. And then we have some styling. And you can use global styling, you can use Sass. There's actually a Sass plugin. You can use styled components. There's plenty of different options when it comes to styling. And then down here we just have a standard GraphQL query just to get the site metadata and all that. All right, but basically this is your layout. If we look in header.js, this is our header component, just has a bunch of styling and has the site title in it as well. Okay, and that's being passed in here. So let's go ahead and run the server by just saying Gatsby-develop. Or not dash, what am I doing? It's Gatsby space develop. Weirdo. So what this will do is it'll open our site on localhost 8000, I believe. Okay, so it's just gonna compile, and let's go ahead and open up localhost port 8000. And there it is, Gatsby default starter. So let's actually put this to the side here and just have these side by side. And just to let you know where everything is, this purple area, this is the header component. You can see the background. I can actually change this if I want. Let's say background, I don't know, we'll say coral, and save. And it actually has hot reloading, so as soon as I save, this updates. There's no need to actually reload the page. I don't want coral actually. Let's use dark gray. There we go. And you can change some styling here if you want. If you wanted to move your styling to a CSS file, that's fine as well. Here we have just a link, which comes in from Gatsby link. This is used instead of an A tag with an href. It's going to be link with a to attribute. And any of you guys that have dealt with React recently, you probably know that. Then we just have the site title. Now the site title we can change in the layout. If I go to index.js and let's see, site title, or is it not in the site title? It's in config. So let's change it to, we'll say Gatsby crash course and save. Okay, so You know what, if we change this config file, I think we have to restart the server. So let's Control C and run Gatsby develop again. And there we go. So if you change the config file, you do have to restart the server. All right, we'll be adding some plugins here later. Right now we just have the helmet plugin. So if we wanted to change, let's see, let's go to our layout, index.js. So if we wanted to add a description here, we could say for a description, this is a sample website for the Gatsby crash course. And then for keywords, we can put like Gatsby, React, I don't know, tutorial, whatever. You get the point. So if we save that and we take a look at our source code, well, actually, we can't see it here because we're running our server. But if we look at, let's see, let's go to elements and let's pull this down. And we look in our head, you can see right here, description, there it is, there's our keywords. All right, so when we build out our site, we'll see those. And I'm just gonna move this to the bottom. All right, so let's change the index page up a little bit. So in pages index.js, we're just gonna say, welcome to my website. We'll put, let's put one paragraph in here. And we'll just say this is a sample site for the Gatsby crash course. And I don't want this link to go to page 2. I'm going to get rid of that and save. And there we go. So there's our home page. Nothing special. Nothing we build here is going to look good. It's just to get you to understand how to use Gatsby, and then you can build your own sites. Of course, you can bring in Bootstrap or Materialize, whatever you want. Use the grid, however you want to style your site. So, but we're just going to use the default styling. So if we want to create a page, all right, let's say we want to create an about page. All we have to do is create a new file in here called about.js. And then we need a functional based component. I use an extension in VS Code called, where is it? ES7 React Redux GraphQL, and I can do RFC tab, and it just gives me a functional component. If I do RCC tab, it'll give me a class-based component. All right, but we just want a simple functional based component. And we're gonna just cut the export default, and we're gonna say const about page equals our function, and then we'll make sure we export it down here. So export about page. All right, and then in here, let's just put, let's see, what did the index page have? An H1. We'll go ahead and just copy this, and we'll say about us. And let's actually just put some sample text in here. I'll say lorem 40 tab and save. And then if I just go to /about, there it is. All right, so if you've worked with Next.js, which is React on the server, it works in kind of the same way. You just create your page and it's available. You don't have to bring in React Router. You don't have to create any special routes or anything like that. You just simply create the page in the pages folder. All right, let's create one more page, static page here. So we'll say new, and let's call it services. We'll say services.js. And I'm just going to copy what we did in the about, paste that in. We'll change this to services page, and we'll say our services. I'll go ahead and make this 2 paragraphs and change the export to services page and save. And now all we have to do is go to services, and there it is. All right, now we'll probably want a menu because we want to be able to get around, so let's create a menu component. So what I'll do, I'm just going to close these out, all these files, and we're going to go into our components folder and create a new file called menu.js. All right, now from here we're going to import, actually I'll just do my RFC tab, make it a little easier, and we're going to cut out the export default. We're going to say const menu equals, and then we'll export it down here. Okay, now I'm going to add some inline styling here for our menu, so let's go, let's see. Oh, you know what? We don't want the return. Did that get added to our pages? It did. We don't actually need this. What we can do is get rid of the curly braces. Since we're using an arrow function, we can get rid of the curly braces and we can get rid of the actual return. So we can go like that. All right, and if I save that, we should still be able to go to about without any problems. Okay, same thing with services, just to make it a little cleaner. So we'll get rid of that, bring that up there, get rid of the curly brace, and there we go. Good. So in our menu, let's do the same thing. We'll get rid of the return and the curly braces. And then what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of styling. So we're going to put a div here and we can say style equals, and then we want double curly braces. And in here, I'm going to say background. Let's do background and we'll do light gray. So we'll do F4 3 times. Let's do padding top. Okay, and this isn't standard CSS. You want to make sure you use camel case. Don't do padding dash top. Okay, so let's see. That's our div, and then inside here we'll have a UL. And inside here, let's do style, and we're going to do a list style of none. We're going to display flex because I want it to be displayed horizontal, and then I'm just going to add in here justify content, and we're going to set that to space evenly. All right, so that should do it for styling. Now we'll go ahead and add our list items. So let's do, we'll say li, and let's put 4. So I'll do li times 4 using Emmet. And then in each one, we'll have a link. Whoops, it should be capital L. So link to equals okay, so link to, this will be slash, and it's going to be home. All right, let's make sure we bring in link. So we're going to say import link from Gatsby-link. So that's our home. I'm just going to copy this. So we'll have home, we'll have about, and we'll have services. And then we're also going to have a blog, but I'm not going to put this in just yet. So for now, we'll just have our static pages like that. And let's save this. All right, so now it's not going to show up yet. Even if I reload, it's not going to show up because we haven't inserted it into our layout. Okay, and that's what we want to do. So let's go to our layout, index.js, and just like they brought in the header here, we're going to bring in the menu. So components menu, and then we're just going to put this, let's see, let's put this right below the header, which is right here. So we'll say menu like that and save. Reference, none is not defined. Okay, that's because I forgot my quotes. You guys probably noticed that. And save. And there we go. So there's our menu. I don't like this space right here. So let's see. Let's go to our header where it has margin bottom. I'm going to set that to 0. And there we go. Cool. So if I click on home, brings us home, services, about. It's not the best looking thing in the world, but you can see what I'm doing here. I'm creating separate components, and they're going to show on, this is going to show on every page rather than just building a regular HTML site where you'll have to include this on in every file. Not to mention you have all the benefits of React. Now, we have this inline style. You don't need to do this, but I just figured since the header has it, I just added it to the menu. But let's say I want to get rid of these underlines and change the color of the links here. I'm going to go to layouts, index CSS, and this is the global CSS file. So let's go right to the A tag here, and let's just say color. We'll do color 333, and we'll say text. Text decoration equals none, and save, and there we go. All right, so that's basically how you can create like just this regular static site, just a brochure informational site. You can do anything you can do with React pretty much. Now what I want to show you is how to implement a blog. Now it doesn't have to be a blog. It could be like, let's say, events. Maybe you have a list of events or something like that. Maybe you have a list of, I don't know, maybe it's like a school type website and you have a list of homework, just any kind of data. But we're going to just use a blog for simplicity. So first thing we'll do, before we do any configuration, let's create a couple blog posts, okay? And I'll just show you what you would do to create those posts. We're going to make it so that you just go into the pages folder, and let's create a new folder, and you can call this whatever you want. This is going to be our first blog post. You probably want to put the date. That's what I've seen that as a convention. So we'll put like 2018, and we'll say 04-09, and we'll call it post dash, we'll say post-1. All right, and then inside here we're going to create a file called index.md. Okay, it's going to be a markdown file, and with VS Code I have an extension installed that will give us a preview of any markdown file we open. Now in this markdown file we're going to have our post, which will be the content. Then we also have something called front matter. Okay, so our front matter is going to go in between two triple hyphens, okay, or dashes, and we're going to have a couple fields here. So we're going to have a path. We're going to specify this as whatever the path, the URL we want for this post. I'm going to say post-1. Okay, so that's going to be our path, and let's define a date. And by the way, you can put whatever you want in here. You don't have to put this stuff aside from the path and I guess a title. But I'm going to put a date. We'll say the same date as the folder. We'll say 2018-04-09. And then we'll have a title. Okay, so for the title, we'll say my first Gatsby post. And let's also do an author. Okay, again, not required, but I just want to put one. So I'm going to just put my name. All right, so that's our front matter. I'm actually going to get rid of that preview. It's not even working. Well, actually it is working. It's not going to display the front matter. So under here is where we actually create our content. So I'm just going to say this is my very first blog post in Gatsby. All right, so that's it. That's a blog post. We'll save it. And this is, I mean, once you get your everything configured and you create your client's website, you simply tell them to do this to create a blog post. Is it as convenient as logging into WordPress and doing it from there? Maybe not. But you know, it gives them an easy way to add content. They don't have to add any HTML. You can show them a simple Markdown cheat sheet, or better yet, direct them to my Markdown crash course. And if you wanted to make like something bold, you could just surround it in asterisks, or that's actually italic. It's double for bold, but things like that. So you can use that instead of HTML tags. But let's save this and let's create one more post. So we're going to create another folder in Pages called 2018-04-10-post-2. Okay, and then we'll create another index.md file, and I'm just going to copy the first one we did, paste that in there. We'll change the path to post2. We'll change the date. We'll change this to, let's say, my second Gatsby post. We'll change the author to John Doe, and we'll say this is my second post in Gatsby. All right, so now we have 2 blog posts. Now, just doing this isn't going to do anything whatsoever. There's no way for us to get to these pages. What we'll have to do is we need to install a couple plugins. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this bigger, and I'm going to stop our server with Control-C. And looks like my clearing isn't working again, so just open up a new terminal. All right, so there's basically 3 plugins that I want to install. So we're going to say npm I. The first one is called Gatsby source file system. I can't talk and type at the same time sometimes. System. So what this does is it allows us to work with data from our computer's file system, and we need this to be able to query our blog posts from our file system. Now, since we're using Markdown, we're also going to need Gatsby transformer remark, and this will allow us to basically transform blog posts that are written in Markdown MD files, like the index MD files we created on the local disk, into HTML for rendering. That's what this is going to do. And then we also want Gatsby plugin catch links. And what this will do is it'll intercept local links from Markdown and other non-React pages, and does a client-side push state to avoid the browser having to refresh the page. So we want to install these 3 plugins here. Let me just make sure I spelled everything right because I was talking. All right, so let's run this. I have gotten permission issues installing these on Windows before, so hopefully that doesn't happen. All right, good. So it looks like that worked. If we look at our package.json file, you can see that we have our plugins here. All right, now after we install these plugins, we need to configure them. Okay, so we have to go to our Gatsby config.js. You can see we have an area for our plugins. We already have the helmet plugin. So we need to add some stuff here. Now in this array, let's put this on a new line. We're going to put in a comma, and let's put in here Gatsby, and we'll do our -plugin catch links. Okay, now the next one here, we want to put in our source file system plugin, but we have some options as well. So we're actually going to put in a set of curly braces, and we're going to say resolve, and then the name of the plugin, which is Gatsby source file system. All right, and then we also want to put in options, which is going to be an object, and we want the path. So here we're going to use backticks because we're going to use a template literal. We want to put in this syntax, which allows us to put a variable, and we're just going to do _dir name, meaning the current directory, and then in the source folder, and then in the pages folder. So basically we're just showing where we want to look, and it's in the pages folder. That's where we're putting our blog posts. That's what we want to put right here. And then we just also want to put in name of the folder, which is pages. Okay, so that will configure that. Then we want to put a comma right here, and we want to add our last plugin, which is the transformer remark. So Gatsby dash transformer dash remark. I'm having a lot of trouble talking and typing at the same time today. So that should be it as far as this goes, as far as adding our plugins to this file. So let's save this. And let's at least make sure we can run our site. So we'll say Gatsby develop. Make sure we don't have any errors at least. All right, we'll go ahead and open this, and let's just reload it. All right, so this is still working. That's a good sign. We can close the config file. Now, before we get into this, we need to add to this Gatsby node.js file. We also need to create a template for our blog post. But before we get into that, let's go back to our browser. And since we're using GraphQL, we have a tool called Graphical available to us. And if you've used GraphQL before, if you've watched my 5-part GraphQL server series, then you've worked with this. But we want to do localhost 8000/GraphQL. All right, and then this allows us to basically just write queries, and this is an actual query to get all of our files within the pages folder. If I go ahead and press run here, I don't know if this will automatically show up on yours. It might be on mine because I've already ran it. I think it might have been my last query. If not, just go ahead and put that in there. And I'm not going to go over GraphQL in depth here. It's basically a query language, and it's formatted like the data is formatted. So if we go ahead and we run this, you'll see it's going to give us back this data object that has all file and edges. Edges is basically going to be an array of our nodes, and our nodes are our files. Okay, and you can see we're getting the ID, which is the complete path and file name of each file. So our 404 about, page 2, index, and we also have our blog pages here as well. So basically what we're doing is we're getting the edges, we're getting the array of nodes or files, and we're just requesting the ID, and it's giving us all that data. All right, now when we make our query to get our Markdown files, we're going to use the Markdown transformer. So let's put a different query in here. Let's get rid of this. And instead, we're going to put in some curly braces. Hopefully you guys can see that. I guess I can make this bigger. You know what? Let's just make this big. All right, so let's say all, right here, it even pops up, all Markdown remark. And if we wanted to do sorting and stuff like that, we could put that in parentheses right here, but I'm not going to get into that. And then let's do edges. Let's do node. And then let's get our front matter. Now remember, front matter, if we look at one of our posts, is going to be this data here. So we can get any of this data that we want. So let's go. Well, I can't see with that in the way, can I? So front matter, and then we can pick and choose what we want. So let's get everything. We'll get the path, we'll get the title, and there's no, don't put a comma. If you haven't worked with GraphQL, it might look a little funny without a comma, but we don't do that in our query. So date and author. Oops, date, author. And let's see if that works. So if I run that, And there we go. You can see that we're actually querying our Markdown files, and we're getting the front matter. Now, if we want the actual post, we could get that. It's not part of the front matter, so we're going to go underneath, and we can get excerpt. So let's run that, and now you can see we get the actual content in excerpt. So we're using GraphQL to grab our Markdown files. And that's basically what we're going to do from within our blog post template. All right, so just remember this type of query. So let's go back. Oh, let me bring this back down. Let's go back to our browser. Let's close the post up. And let's work on it. Let's do a blog index page first, which will just show the listing of posts, and then we'll get into the actual individual post pages, which are these. So I'm going to create a new page or a new file called blog.js. All right, and we're just going to let's grab the index file here and copy it, and then we'll just change this to blog page. We'll change this to blog page. All right, and then what I'm going to do is in the H1, we'll just say latest posts. And then we need to query our posts, just like we did in the graphical interface. So to do that, we're going to go down here below the, above the export. And we're going to create a variable here. We're going to export const, and let's call this page query, and we're going to say equals GraphQL, and then to make a GraphQL query we need our backticks like this. Okay, so our query will go in here. So we'll say query, and we're going to say blog index query. And then we can actually copy what we just did in graphical. So this right here, because what we want is this stuff, right? So I'm going to paste that in, and we actually don't need the excerpt. We don't need to include that. We do want all this front matter, and let's see, I also want to get the ID, which is outside of the front matter. And the reason I want the ID is because when we loop through the posts, we need to have a key. If you have any experience with React, when you map through anything, you want to have a key, or you're going to get that little warning in the console. So I want to use the ID as the key. So we will request that as well. All right. Now what we'll do is go back up here, and in order to get this data, we need to pass in curly braces and data. Okay, like that. And let's see, we want to map through it, so we can say data and then dot all markdown remark, and we want the edges, which is basically the array. Okay, remember it's edges and then we have the nodes inside, but we want to map through the edges. We want to map through this array, and we're going to say post for each one, and we'll set an arrow here. And then for each post, let's create a div. And then this is where we're going to have to add our key. So we're going to say key equals post.node.id. And then in here, let's put an H3. Let's say post.node. And then we want the title, and remember the title is in the front matter, so we want to say front matter dot title. Okay, underneath that I'm going to put a small tag, and I'm going to say posted by, and then we can say here post dot node dot front matter dot author. Okay, because remember we included the author. I believe if I save this, it's going to get rid of the spaces anyway, so we might as well not do that. So posted by the author, and let's say on, and then in here we'll say post.node.front front matter dot date, because that's included as well. All right, and then under the small tag, I'm going to put 2 line breaks. Like I said, this is not going to be styled very nicely. And then we want a link to go to the actual post. Okay, remember in the front matter we have that path value. So we're going to use our link. We're going to say link to. Actually, we don't want quotes here. We want link to post.node.frontmatter.path. And in here, let's just say read more. Okay, and then under the link, I'm going to put 2 more line breaks. And let's also put an HR to separate each post. All right, so let's save that. Looks like we're getting an error here. Expected name found. Hold on a second, did I do this wrong? Oh yeah, I have an extra set of curly braces. This shouldn't be here. So this one, let's get rid of that and that. And save. Let's go down to the bottom here. Okay, so it looks like it compiled successfully. Now what I'm going to do is add to our menu component. Let's add the blog. Okay, save. And yeah, let's cross our fingers. Where is my browser? 1 second. All right, so we have our blog. Let's click on it, and there we go. Latest post, my first Gatsby post posted by Brad Traversy on this date, and we have our second Gatsby post. So that's our index page. Now if I click read more, we're going to get a 404 because we still have quite a bit to do in order for this to actually register as that post, okay, as the post it's supposed to. So let's go back, and we're going to have to create a template for our blog post. So we're going to create a folder in the source called templates. Okay, and you can call this whatever you want. I'm going to call it blog-post.js. Okay, so this is going to be our template. Let's go ahead and import, we'll say import React from React. Now the way they have Prettier set up is not to use semicolons. If I save, it gets rid of the semicolon, which is funny because my Prettier extension, I have it in VS Code, I have it set, if I forget a semicolon, it adds it because I prefer to use them. But apparently, you know, some platforms like Gatsby, like Vue.js, they encourage not using semicolons. But it's all preference. So here we're going to, let's just say export default function template. And it's going to get passed in data. And what we want to do is create a variable called post, and we want to get this from our Markdown remark. So we can get that from data.markdown remark. Oops, don't want to do that. So let's see, underneath that, we're going to have our return, and we'll put in a div here. And I want to have a back button. Remember, this is for the individual post, so I'm going to have link, which I actually need to bring in. So let's import link from Gatsby-link. So right here we'll say link 2, and let's set this to /blog because that's the index page for the blog. And in here we'll just say go back. Okay, and then I'm just going to put an HR underneath. Again, this isn't going to be pretty. And then we'll have an H1, which will have the title, so we can say post.frontmatter.title. Okay, we don't have to include the node now because we're dealing with single posts. We're not mapping through the edges array. All right, and then under that I'm going to have an H4, and we're going to say posted by, so same, it's basically going to be the same stuff that the index page has, except it's going to have the actual content. So let's say posted by post.frontmatter. And by the way, we haven't created the query yet to actually get this. We'll do that below. On post.frontmatter.date. And then to actually set our HTML, we're going to have a div, and we're going to use React's dangerously set inner HTML. So dangerously set inner HTML, and we want to set that to double curly braces, and we want to do double underscore HTML and set it to post.html. Okay, and this is just standard React. This is going to allow us to actually have HTML markup inside of this. All right, so that takes care of our template. It's very simple. Now we need our query. So let's go down here. Yeah, we'll go down to the bottom here, and let's say export const post query, and we're going to set it to GraphQL. Put in our backticks, and let's say query, and we'll say blog post by path, and we're going to pass in money sign path, which is going to be a string. And then instead of using all markdown remark, because we used that before because we were getting all of our posts, now we're getting a single one, so we just want to use markdown remark. All right, and then we pass in here inside these curly braces. This is going to look a little weird. So we're going to say front matter, and then set some curly braces, and we're going to say where the path, and then another set of curly braces is equal to, EQ is equal to the path that's brought in. So money sign path. I know that looks a little weird. And we want to get the HTML, and then we also want to get, oops, no comma, we want to get the front matter. Okay, and we can define what front matter we want, which is basically everything. We want the path, the title, the author, and the date. Okay, now remember, this doesn't have to be a blog. You could have other stuff here like event location or something like that, but we're using a blog, so these are relevant pieces of data. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. Now this still isn't going to work. In fact, let's restart our server. Control C, Gatsby develop. All right, so let's go back here and reload, and let's click read more. Now we're still getting a 404 page. The reason for that is basically, even though we created our template and our query, it doesn't know what this is. It doesn't know that this post 1 should actually go to that particular post. So we have to do one more thing, or edit one more file, I believe, and that is gatsby-node.js. All right, so we're going to get rid of everything here, and this may seem a little confusing, but we basically need to use the create page API. Okay, and that's it does exactly that. It's going to make it so that we can have post 1, post 2, and any other pages so that we can create those. So we're going to bring in the path, say require path, which is just a standard Node.js module, and then say export dot create pages, and Gatsby, it uses Redux, which has action creators, and it happens in the background, but we need to pass in here bound action creators. Okay, this is probably the most confusing file of all. I don't even understand some of this stuff, but we want to pass in that, and then GraphQL. We're basically registering it, so registering our post so that we can use those URLs. All right, so now we're going to just set an arrow function, and we're going to say const. We're going to use destructuring here, and we're going to pull out create page from bound action creators, like that. All right, and then what we need to do is define our template. So we're going to say const post template, and we're going to use the path module and just say path resolve. And the post template is going to be in the source folder. It's going to be in templates, and it's going to be called, or it is called, blog-post.js. Okay, remember that's the actual template for the page. All right, now what we want to do is return a GraphQL query. So we want our backticks here. I'm sorry, we want to go like that and then have our backticks. Oops, backticks. And then in here, we'll put in some curly braces. Again, we want to do all. I can probably just copy this from our blog page. This right here. Let's see, where does this end? This ends here, right? So we'll grab that and paste that in here. I think, yeah, we want edges, node. We want, of course, we want the HTML. We want the ID, the front matter. So that should be good. Now this will actually give us a promise. So we're going to go down to this closing parenthesis, and we're going to say dot then, and then pass in our response. We want to check for errors. So we're going to say if res dot errors, then we want to return, and we're just going to return a promise reject. So promise dot reject, and pass in res dot errors. Okay, now if there are no errors, so we'll keep going down here, then we want to say res dot data, and we want to call all markdown remark dot edges, and we want to loop through these. So we're going to use a for each loop, and in here we want to put in some parentheses and then our node object, or our node data, and we're going to create an arrow function here. Whoops, it should be here. That, and then we just want to call create page. Okay, and inside create page we pass in an object with the path, and we can say node.frontMatter, and we want to get the path for that particular post. And then for a component we want to say post template, which is just our variable that's up here that includes our actual template. All right, so that should do it, hopefully, unless I mess something up. But we're basically just registering it using the Create Pages API that's included with Gatsby to be able to have post 1 go to the actual post, have post 2 go to the actual post. So basically look at whatever this path is and have that register. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I think that this file, this file is the most confusing of all, to me at least. But let's try it. So we will have to restart the server, and hopefully it works. All right, so it looks like we have an error here. Something to do with our promise. Cannot read path of undefined. Let's see. Front. Oh, I forgot a T in matter. I love when the error is that easy. All right, I'm just going to restart this again. Okay, so hopefully it looks like it's going to compile successfully. Good. Let's go back. And there it is. We're already on it. Post 1 now works. Go back. Click on read more for the second post. And there it is. So we can now continuously to create blog posts over here in our pages. Okay, so you can instruct your clients to just simply create a folder with the date. It doesn't even this doesn't matter. The name of the folder doesn't really matter. What matters is the path, but no matter what path you choose, it's going to now be put on the blog. In fact, let's test it out. Let's add one more post. So we'll say new folder 2018-04-11-post-3, and we'll create a new file called index.md, and we'll just grab this, close that up, paste that in there. We'll call this post 3 for the path, change the date, my third Gatsby post, third, and let's save it, and let's reload. Did I stop the server? You must set the path when creating a page. All right, let's just restart this. Gatsby develop. And hopefully, yep, there it is. My third Gatsby post. Let's click on it, and there we go. All right, awesome. So we have a static site with a blog, and I know that there's quite a bit of configuration. If you haven't used GraphQL before, that probably confused the shit out of you. But GraphQL is an awesome technology. I would suggest watching my 5-part course where we create a GraphQL and Express server, or just any video. It doesn't have to be mine, but it's definitely a technology you're going to want to get into if you're looking to stay current in the world of web development. All right, so I think that's going to be it for building the actual site. Like I said, it's nothing special to look at, but it should have gave you some good insight on how Gatsby works. So now what I want to do is try to push this to, we're going to push it to GitHub, and then we're going to try to deploy it with Netlify. All right, so let's deploy this bad boy. So we're going to go to github.com, and I'm going to create a new repository. I'm going to call it Gatsby Crash Course. We'll say sample website built with Gatsby. All right, so let's go down to our command line. I'm going to stop this server, and actually let's open up a new terminal here. And I'm going to say git init. So we're going to initialize a git repository. Then we're going to do git add all. So git add dot. And then we're going to git, actually, hold on. Oh yeah, okay, so it already has a git ignore file. Good. So now let's do git commit -am, and we're going to say, we'll just say initial commit. Okay. Now we're going to grab the remote link right here, or the remote command. and paste that in. And then we're going to push to our remote Git repository. I just got to put my stuff in here. Oops. Something happened where I think my SSH keys are gone or something. I don't know why I have to do that. Alright, so let's reload our repository, and there it is. I'll probably change the README later on, but that's fine for now. Now what we want to do is go to Netlify. Netlify.com. Say get started for free. We want to choose GitHub. I'm going to sign in with GitHub. You might get like something that says, you know, is it okay to sign up with GitHub? Just click OK. Let's say new site from Git. We're going to choose GitHub. We're going to authorize Netlify. Put in your password. Okay, so we want to choose. Let's see. Got a lot of repositories here. I want Gatsby Crash Course. Let's see. So it's going to run Gatsby build. Remember, that's part of the package.json script. Be at Gatsby build. It's going to build into public, and I think that's pretty much all we need to do. We don't need to change anything here, I don't believe. So let's say deploy site. All right. So deploying your site. Looks like it's still going. And what's awesome about Netlify is, of course, you can add your custom domain. You can do that with any service, and you can add HTTPS really easily. Okay, basically in one click, it says. So that's really cool. There's also contact forms, so you don't have to build your own back end just to have a contact form. It's a really, really awesome service, and they give you a lot for free, actually. All right, so it still says site deploy in progress. All right, so it looks like your site is deployed. Now, you could keep on going and set up a custom domain. I'm not going to go through all that. It's very self-explanatory, but let's check our site. So it gives you a custom URL, which is this right here. It's just going to make up something weird, .netlify. Let's click on that, and there's our site. We're now deployed to the internet. Let's try the about, services, the blog. Let's click on a blog post, and everything works perfectly, and it's very fast. That's one thing I didn't really talk about Gatsby, is it's incredibly fast. Everything is just instant. All right, and I'll go ahead and leave this up too as well if you guys want to check it out. I'll put the link in the description. But hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully you'll look more into Gatsby. There's a lot more you can do. You can integrate with different APIs. You could integrate with WordPress. It's a really cool technology, and I think it's something that's very practical, which is kind of rare these days, to find something that you can actually use, you know, on your own without a big company, without spending incredible amounts of time to create something. You can just whip up some nice static sites, some really fast static sites for your clients. So thanks for watching, guys. If you like this crash course, please leave a like. If you're not subscribed and you like this content, please consider subscribing. Please consider following me on social media, supporting me through Patreon. Anything you guys can do, just a like is appreciated. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey guys, being a programmer or a web developer or any job at all where you sit all day can do horrible things to your back and your health in general over time. So I would definitely suggest looking into a stand-sit desk. And AnthroDesk has affordable and quality solutions for maximum health and productivity. You can choose from different frame widths depending on your needs. I actually just got one myself and I love it. They also offer accessories like standing converters and floor mats. So check out anthrodesk.com or click the link in the description below.